Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal. And today we've got a really interesting broadcast on how to stay happy while you're alone. But before we start that, we're just going to wait for some people to get in here and then we will be able to get going. So I hope you've all had a great week and happy Good Friday. I'm just going to put up a couple of notifications here just so people know where to go, so to speak. And we wanted to just make sure that everybody knows before and I'm going to say this a couple of times. Hi there, Linda. How are you doing? Happy Good Friday. And I always get confused with that. How can it be a happy Good Friday? Hi, happy Easter weekend. It's a much better way of wording it. Thank you. I'm going, hi, Peaches. How are you doing? Good to see you. It's amazing. I really like the way that this live stream works. So I've done sort of all sorts of things for this broadcast, which I hope will work out. It's all a learning process, as you know. And at my age, the learning is a little bit challenging. Do any of you relate to that? And I've been very busy all week trying to get all the bits and pieces of the big jigsaw puzzle to fit in together. And we'll find out whether they do or not. So did you guys get a notification? Hi, Jessica. Good to see you. Hi. We'll just wait a few minutes for everybody to just get in here, and then we'll start discussing some of the stuff. So by the way, while we're waiting, if any of you've got any subjects that you'd like me to talk about in future, this would be a good time to give them to me because I've got time. Hi, Jody. Happy Easter weekend to you too. It's for some reason I could not get to sleep last night. I was still awake at close to 4 o'clock. It was ridiculous, but I did eventually fall asleep, as you can tell, because I don't have huge bags under my eyes. I just wanted to give an update while we're waiting as well on Lauren. For those of you who know Lauren in Tasmania, she had 2 operations this past week and is now waiting to get transferred back to her local hospital. She's waiting for a bed. Ah, excellent. Okay, Peaches. So that's a good idea. Anyway, she's waiting to get transferred back to her local hospital. She's waiting for a bed there. And that's where she will wait until she can have a skin graft. Now, the issue is that, I don't know if you know, but Lauren is in a wheelchair and so is her mum. So Lauren does not want to give her mum the extra responsibility of looking after her as well as looking after herself, which I thought was very selfless of her. So that was really good. I wanted to start this broadcast, and I guess I'm going to need to start every broadcast with this, just reminding everybody. Yeah, I know it's been very challenging. Just reminding everybody that I am just a human being. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. I am just Sal with gray hair who's had a bit of experience. So the views that you're going to hear from me today are my views to a very large extent. And most of all, I'm interested in your views. Now, have you ever done anything where you thought, maybe I should have done this a couple of months ago? Have you ever had one of those moments? Because I had one this week. I went up to go and mail a birthday card for Jody because it's her birthday on the 3rd. And while I was there, I thought I'd just open up my mailbox. I'm quite convinced that I had been there fairly regularly, but I found out that apparently I hadn't because there were Christmas cards in it. And I'm going, short word. That's not very good. So I just wanted to make sure that in case they happen to listen at any time, that Carly, thank you for the Christmas card, and also Jeannie. It's just like, how come I miss those? So how many of you are feeling better now that you're not the only ones? I saw a really interesting factoid this last couple of days when I was having a look around this whole business of it's a human condition, Peaches, you're right. I found a factoid, and I wonder if any of you have felt this or agree with this. And the factoid was the feeling of loneliness is bad for your health. How many of you agree with that? And how many of you have actually felt it? Where you actually feel lonely. So yeah, I totally agree, Jody. And yet, isn't it funny that we've got more things going for us today to not be lonely than we ever have had in a lifetime? And that's why to me it's really fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating to me because being alone, I'd like to suggest for a large extent, is a bit of a state of mind. And how many of you actually are alone? You know what I mean? You actually live on your own. Any of you? So there's part of me that goes, I live on my own, but do I? Ah, yes. Yes. And the question that Sierra asked, if you remember, was how can you be happy alone? How do you get to be happy alone? Now, and she asked that last week. And so to me, now your youngest son is Nicholas? No, your youngest son can't be Nicholas. Okay. So yeah, a flat being in England, that's an apartment. Paul, okay. Well, send him a hug from me. So yes, how many of you can remember that feeling? How many of you can remember leaving home for the first time and looking forward to it so much, like, yay, I'm free. And then, about a month later, you're going, this is not quite so cool. Or did you, you know, I know that within that first month of leaving, I actually remember doing it when I left home completely, when I went to another country. And within the first month, I actually wrote to my stepfather at the time and thanked him for everything, because it took me to leave the country to realize, how much I appreciated all that he'd done. Yeah, a month after. Yes, you know why that is, Linda? Because the first month is the excitement of it. It's a bit like anything, like getting married or whatever. The first month it's so exciting, you know what I mean? And then reality starts to hit in, like the bills come in. And you go, how do I do this? It's for me, it's like retiring, and how do I save money for this now? It's just like, I didn't think this through well enough before, but it is what it is. So you're going to cope with it. But yeah, it's really interesting that these realities, you've got to sort of do it before you can feel it. So I certainly can remember that feeling of being alone for the first time. And being how many of you um, can remember that feeling of responsibility? You see, because to me, I think what is relevant is that a lot of people don't want that responsibility, and they don't realize how serious that responsibility is until they are alone. So, for those of you who are alone, what is the good part about being alone? Being an adult, yeah. Put your big person panties on, right? Seriously though, you know, what are the good things about being alone? Because it's very easy to talk about the bad ones, but what are the good things about being alone? The freedom. How many of you, totally love that one? It's like, yeah, thanks, Peaches. Yeah, the freedom of being alone. It's like, you mean I can do whatever I want? I would say the same, by the way, of being retired. It's like, I can't tell you how many times, it's been early hours of the morning and I've been binge watching something. And then I go, I really should go to sleep now. And I'm going, yeah, but I really would like to watch another episode. And because I'm alone and because I am retired, my mind goes, well, why don't you? It's not like anybody's watching you. And it's very difficult to have that level of freedom. So do you remember what I said last week, that they have shown that good news is as stressful as bad news. So the excitement of being alone is as stressful as the pain of it. Yeah, without a doubt, I think freedom is definitely where it is for me. Now then, can you remember the feeling of being alone and it being bad? Can you remember in any way what you did about it? Because part of what I wanted to talk about is that whether you're happy or not has nothing to do with another person. How many of you understand what I'm saying? Happiness does not revolve around another person or thing or purchase or, or whatever. Happiness comes from within. Happiness is about very different things from the external. And so what I want to know is, if ever you have felt lonely and you've been down in the dumps about it, what sort of things have you done to make yourself feel a little bit better than that? What is the little trigger that goes off where you go, oops, if I'm feeling lonely, I need to do something about it? Okay, so Peaches, to you, connection with your family keeps you happy, right? Now, I I didn't have that sort of family, and I was, and some of you will relate to that. I didn't have that sort of family, and also I was on a different continent from the majority of my family, and so that one never worked for me very well. So, yeah. So Peach is saying the other thing is the way that you help yourself is to stay busy. But question, Peaches, if you stay busy just for the sake of staying busy, have you noticed that That's not honoring the feelings. I don't know if that makes any sense. One of the interesting things that I had to learn in my life was it's okay to have negative feelings. And that was quite a wake-up call for me. Ah, human contact is needed, right? And can that human contact be electronic? You know what I mean? Is it enough to have human contact online? Because, to me, there's a lot to be said for it's a nice filler for a lot of people. But for a lot of people, it's not the same as actually a real life human contact. Yes, Linda, exactly. 30 years ago, or in my case, 50 years ago, we didn't have social media, right? So we weren't able to go and join a chat room or, come here and a live broadcast and share thoughts and so doing help other people. And I really do want to thank you all, by the way, for coming in because your input will help other people. You do know that. This is not about me, this is about us. And it's really important for people to know that they're not alone in being alone, all right? And that it's quite normal to have those feelings. So my question to you is, do you understand that having lonely feelings is okay? That having sad feelings is okay? I think it was a huge shock to me that those negative emotions are as important in your life as the positive ones. And I wonder if any of you have got that learning now, where you're going, I didn't ever realize this before, but it's okay to be angry every now and then. And it's okay to have a little snit. You know, it's okay to feel lonely. But the question is feel the feeling, be aware, and and then just be with that feeling and just go, okay, fine. So I'm lonely. How many of you, when you get to that point, ask the next question, which is, what are you going to do about it? Because it's right. Okay, I acknowledge the fact that I'm feeling alone. What am I going to do about it? For some people, yes, it's true that music can lift them up. For some people, I'm not one of those people. Yes, and Linda's saying, apropos of her youngest son, that she spent a lot of time on FaceTime, just talking to him like a human, and telling him it was okay to feel the way he was feeling. It was quite human and quite normal. Yes, Jody, and that took me a lot of understanding to know that if you honor your feelings and acknowledge them, okay, what is this feeling I've got? Why are the tears running down my face? What is this feeling? And the feeling is loneliness. And that's really important to acknowledge and go, okay, fine, why am I feeling so lonely? And then I don't know about you, but I start asking some questions following that. When did I last invite anybody over? When did I last go out and, just sit and have a coffee somewhere? When did I last go for a walk? Somewhere where there are people. And it's very difficult for a lot of people. But what is difficult, Peaches, is to accept that we are responsible for being lonely. You know what I mean? It's a self-inflicted wound. How do you like that one? Loneliness, in my view, is a self-inflicted wound. and we are responsible for healing it. It's not a friend's job to come and know, okay, well, maybe she's feeling lonely, I better go and do something. No, it is our job to go, apparently I am feeling lonely, and when I look back on the last couple of weeks, I've done nothing to interact with human beings. So is it true then that some ways all the social awareness and development that we've had, do you think that people are more alone today than they used to be? And I acknowledge, Peaches, your comment about, the music is noise. But what I found is that sometimes the noise drowned out the feeling. So I've learned to be very quiet, and when I'm dealing with those things. Hi, Kerry. Welcome. So we're talking about the fact, Kerry, that being alone um, is an emotion. We feel lonely is an emotion that we are responsible for. And yes, is it true that with all the development with social media and everything, in a way, we are more alone than we were before? And the reason I say that is because in the olden days, people used to get together. People, for some reason, people were in more clubs. There was the knitting circle, and there was the quilting people, and there was the, bird watchers, and the whatever, the stamp collectors. People got out. They went in England, and I've got to say this, Linda. One of the biggest things I miss um, when I look back on 50 years, one of the biggest things I miss about the UK is, you could literally walk down, half a block and pop into the local pub and you were not alone. The Cheers concept, for those of you who remember the show Cheers, a place where everybody knows your name. And I can remember that social interaction, and especially in my case, because I lived Hi, Becca. Especially in my case, because I lived on a very big farm and it was very lonely if you wanted it to be. But when I grew up a bit and I could drive myself, um, it loneliness is definitely something that we control if we want to. Yes, people now don't even see where the people who are passing by. And the other thing is, let me tell you my feeling about this, and let's discuss that. The problem with all the social media is is that we're so busy looking at it, we miss what's going on around us. Do you know what I'm saying? That, oh well, I'm busy on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, therefore I don't need to go out. Well, my reality is when I go out, I feel better about myself. I went out with a friend yesterday for um, a luncheon. And it was a very busy day for me yesterday. And in a way, I don't know if you can relate to this. It was like, oh, I'm not sure if I've got the time. And I went, no, you need to make the time. That's a human being. You need to get face to face with a human being. You can do all the broadcasts you like, and you can do all the vlogs you like, but you need to get out of, you need to go breathe some different air. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if we stay in the same environment the whole time, how do we stretch our minds? How do we learn anything? When I say learn anything, but we've seemed to have lost that discussion point that we used to have. Yeah. I think that one of the things I really loved about England was that You'll forgive me for this one, Linda, but as stuffy as people see the Brits to be, and I know that a lot of people see them as stuffy, but as stuffy as they're perceived to be, they're actually very social people when they're in the pub. And they had this community, that where they all met up and discussed things and sorted things out, a bit like we're doing here, I guess. Except we don't have a drink well, I don't have a drink in front of me. I can't say what you're up to at the moment. All right. And just while I'm thinking about it, and before I continue, I want you to know how many of you are on the fitness app, MyFitnessPal. And did you get the warning that they got hacked? And if so, if you didn't, I'd like to give you what they recommend you do. Just that's why I'm asking, because it is pretty serious. It was apparently hacked in February. What amazed me is that it's taken them this long to let us know. You got the warning. Yeah, they're saying a little bit more than just change the password, Kerry, just so that you know. They're saying be very aware this in the next few months of clicking any attachments. Even, for example, if it's got my name on it. Do you know what I mean? If you're going, why is Sal suddenly sending me an attachment? The same as I always say on broadcast, don't click on that link. Because we don't know what the link is. And so what I would really recommend is if you get any, what I call a little bit suspicious type emails from anybody, write to them and say, did you recently send me something with an attachment to it? Take that extra 6 hours or whatever it takes to get a response, or 30 seconds, depending on who it is you're talking to. Makes sense? And by the way, be hypersensitive to anybody asking for your personal data, because what they've got is some of your personal data. But what they need is a little bit more to link it to so they can control. Peaches, I totally agree with you. It happens so often. You don't want to sign up for anything. Do you know, I needed to sign up for something yesterday. And I literally, to agree with you, I was sitting there going, oh my gosh. What if this is a hackable site or whatever? And I would have thought that MyFitnessPal was pretty, secure, but guess what? And what I did is I had to take a deep breath and say, I need to do it anyway. I need to do it anyway. I need to take the risk. And there was that other part of me that has logic that says, listen, if they hacked it back in February, they've probably got all the information they need already. So, you just have to look at it that way sometimes. Well done, Kerry. So you would agree that actually, going out on a date is pretty exciting. You definitely don't feel lonely when you're out on a date. Sorry for the phone going. By the way, how many of you can ignore a phone ringing? I think it was one of the greatest things in my learning was to be able to let a phone ring. It's just like, and people go, but your phone's ringing. You're going, yeah, I know. I can hear it too. I know I'm half deaf, but not that deaf. All right. So now control, I want to tell you, Peaches, one of the biggest things in life I've discovered is control. What is that, Kerry? While we're waiting for Kerry to type her good news, exciting news, I just wanted to continue with this, what they're recommending. If anybody is asking you to give your personal information, be hyper cautious, all right? And also check your banking and anything that's involved with money. Your credit cards, anything like that. Way to go, Kerry. Well done. What's the job? Kerry got a new job. Yay. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that I have found that if the password you use on MyFitnessPal is very similar to a password you use somewhere else, change it. Wow, Kerry, you got out of the telemarketing side. Yay. Giant jigsaw puzzles. She's going to be building displays in supermarkets. You know something? I've always... Kerry, how tall are you? I understand that you need to have an enjoyment for jigsaw puzzles to do that, but I'm just thinking, how tall is Kerry? Yeah, 5'5", right? So you understand, you may need a stepladder, and take one with you, a small one. That is awesome. All right, and I've got a great quote that I found, and I thought you might enjoy it. And it said, "Some people can't stand being alone. I love solitude and silence, but when I come out of it, I'm a regular talking machine. It's all or nothing for me." How many of you would relate to that? You actually do enjoy being alone. Not having all the external stimulation. And by the way, if you'd like to know who said that quote, that was Celine Dion, of all people. So Celine Dion, you would think, and I can relate to that, because having been a performer myself, I think that's why I'm so quiet on my own. When I say so quiet, people always say that to me. I can't believe how quiet your house is. There isn't any music going. Well, I do have the television on a lot of time, because I watch the news a lot. So that's probably why I don't have music. Yes, Linda, you like your own company, but that's very difficult for people to learn. So how about that one? How did you learn to enjoy your own company? And what do you do that makes it enjoyable? Those two questions that I have for you guys. Yeah. So I think the essence of being happy alone is to be entertained without you needing somebody else to entertain you. So I would agree that for some of you, that's what social media brings. It brings a group of like-minded people that you can interact with. You have to like yourself first before anybody else will. Isn't that true? Yes, Peaches says, "I am enough." If you can't, if you can't be happy with yourself, to me, I can't find enough hours in the day to do the things I want to do, and I'm on my own. So that would be my next question. What sort of things do you do that makes you happy being alone? Now that we've established we are responsible for our own happiness and loneliness, and by the way, I think they correlate. What sort of things do you do that makes you happy being alone? Now, as you know, I'm busy being an artist or doing crafts. That makes me happy. And I wonder how many people feel, yeah, I wonder how many people feel guilty when they're doing something that makes them happy. Do any of you have that sensation? Yeah, Peaches is saying that I do whatever I want or nothing. And that's okay, right? Because I live on my own and nobody gets to tell me what I can and can't do. I can see Peaches now having a great fun with that. Yes, Kerry, I am enough. Guilt is useless. And so is blame, right? Oh, I'm so lonely. Nobody likes me. Well, you know, that's victim stuff. Or I'm so lonely. Yeah, I always think, hi, Lord. Um, I think it's really interesting. Yeah, how many of you read books? Because, like radio, I think reading a book is theater of the mind stuff. Your mind. How many of you notice that when you read a book or listen on the radio, if any of you do that, your mind plays the movie? And therefore, yes, that's my next subject, actually, Becca. So hang on a second. And if I don't mention it in the next 5 minutes or so, just remind me again, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Ah, that's why we get together, right? You see, we get together because you're not the only one that has a little moment every now and then. We know that there are an awful lot of people out there. And by the way, I really recommend that just before a broadcast, you don't decide to just trim your hair a bit because I have got, that feeling where you got hair everywhere. Yeah, never mind. It's itchy. So, yeah, the question is, and Becca's saying, she takes herself out to a coffee shop. All right. So Linda likes to crochet. And again, do you find when you're crocheting, your mind is tracking on other things? Do you find that I've always found doing things like crochet is multitasking because the rhythm of doing the crocheting um, somehow or other frees up the mind a bit. Have you noticed that? I've found the same thing when I am doing my artwork. I'm talking to myself the whole time. It's like, do I want to put this color on here? I don't know. Okay, what if I did this? And it's like, it's I have this great communication with myself when I'm painting. How many of you? I know that Jody, for example, does cross stitch, and so does Lauren. Yeah, how many of you go out to the movies on your own? How many of you actually go, something? It's been a long time. I think I'll go to the movies. But let me ask you, what stops you? Do I have anybody there that understands that thing where you go, I think I should go to the movies? No, you shouldn't. That voice that goes, no, you shouldn't, because, and whatever. What excuses do we come up with? Lords, I don't know what you just said, but the automatic, what do you call it? Identification program didn't like something you said there. All right, so that's why it retracted the statement. Talking to yourself is usually when you're cleaning and crocheting. That's yeah. I I think whenever we do anything creative, we start talking to ourselves. I I found that last night I was on a roll, a learning roll. How many of you have learned anything new? You know, if you want to get over being lonely, learn a new hobby, learn a new skill, learn a new something. And, maybe, for example, I was saying quite recently that not only do I do this poor painting art, um, but I'm part of a group of people that do it, where we can talk about it and ask questions and we see each other's designs and so forth. And so it's a community. And that's what's missing today, I think, in a large sense, that in today's society, we've lost a lot of that sense of community. Unless we say, but this is a sense of community. For those of you who've been part of DearMamaSal for 4 or 5 years, do you feel that getting together 3 times a week is a sense of community? Do you feel that it's something that enriches your happiness? And again, yeah, Lawrence, it's right. Took you a while to accept that going to the movies by yourself is okay and you now enjoy it. And, I think the reason people don't go to the movies by themselves maybe is because they think they're gonna get judged. "Oh, she's on her own." Well, who gives her, It's just like, "Yeah, I wanna go see this movie, and I wanna sit with popcorn, and I don't have to share it." So, I think to get out of loneliness when you live alone requires effort, right? And so, Linda Missy Moo. Linda, make sure you tell Paul, give him some of these things that we're talking about. Remind him that he needs to enjoy being on his own and having his independence, but that he also needs to get out with his friends and not sit alone and think. Yes, Peaches is saying she goes to a restaurant alone every now and then. I go out and have coffee on my own every now and then. You know what I mean? I will just go out. Let's say I'm going to the grocery store, but before I buy the groceries, because afterwards I don't want it to get the the frozen foods to on me. But before I do that, I might stop in a coffee shop and just have a coffee. How many of you have ever taken your laptop to just go and sit in a coffee shop, even with your laptop? Oh, Jody, how very kind of you. Jody, that's called the super chat. Wow. It works, Jody. I don't know if, we're talking about learning things. One of the things that I was saying was I have no idea how the super chat works, but now we know. Wow, that's pretty important. I guess I can see that message pretty clearly. Yikes, that is amazing. Thank you, Jody. Um, it does look cool, doesn't it? You've learned something new today. Yes, and how exciting is that? One of my problems that I had, I was so busy learning new things yesterday that I couldn't turn the brain off. I don't know if any of you relate to that. And what I also find out, and I wanted to mention this to you, that we have within Dear Mama Sal created little groups of people who support one another. So as some of you know, we've got a little fitness group. We've got a little group that talks about other things, and we've got people who get together because they have other things in common. And so, although they are part of the bigger Dear Mama Sal picture, they probably support each other far more Hi, Sakura. They support each other far more outside of Dear Mama Sal, but it's Dear Mama Sal that if you like put them together. Hi there, Roseanne. Good to see you. I was just saying last week how exciting it was to see your name pop up, even for a short time. So being alone is a state of mind. So we've established that who is responsible for your happiness and your loneliness? Yourself, right? If you're not doing the things that keep you entertained, then you will be lonely and you will be sad and you will be depressed and you will be, blah, 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 all the negative stuff. My next question to you, because this to me was interesting. I love our community. Yeah, I do too. And, how many of you own a pet? Because I found that owning a pet takes away quite a bit of loneliness. Now, I don't think you should get a pet just so you don't feel lonely, because I think that's perhaps the wrong reason. But to adopt a pet who is also lonely is a good reason. You know what I mean? So, because it gives you something to think about other than yourself. Um, Becca, the chatter box will freeze if you're trying to put in too many comments. I don't know why. It allows so many comments a minute from each person so that it keeps things rotating. Yeah, I think the unconditional love of a pet is stops you from being lonely a lot of the time. I also think that a pet gives you responsibility that gets you out of yourself. It might not be the reason, Becca. I'm just saying, just be aware that I know that YouTube has a what do you call it? A monitor thing on it, so that it stops any one person taking up too much of the air, if you like. A filter. That's the word, Becca. Thank you. So, would you agree that if you're lonely, get a pet, and it doesn't matter whether it's a betta fish, it doesn't matter whether it is, a rescue dog or cat or whatever, because that will help fill the loneliness. But I also go, be careful if you are in depression and you have a pet, you know that pets will pick up on your emotion. How many of you have noticed that if you've got pets, that they know when you're sad and they know when you're angry and they know they can feel the vibration. Wow. You know something, Linda? I lost my best friend at 18. So, yeah, that's no wonder he was feeling emotional. And really, it's a good idea for him to get out with his friends. But also, if you can, Linda, make sure you keep him talking about the good things that he remembers about his friend, both of them. Yes, Becca, after your brother's death, the cat seemed strange. Well, you know why? They can feel the anxiety in the house and they can't ask you what's wrong, right? They can't ask you, I can feel that you're upset. What's wrong? And so some pets will try and get closer to you, and some will actually distance themselves. So, but that's another thing. Um, I have the friend I went out to lunch with yesterday. she found that being alone wasn't good for her mental health. And so she has started being part of a dog walking service and a dog sitting service. Because two things. Number one, it is responsibility that gets her out of the house. How many of you think that's a clever idea? She needs to get out of the house to go feed the dog and walk the dog and play with the dog. Even if she doesn't own one, right? She hasn't got the cost. In fact, even better, she doesn't have the cost, but she's getting paid to go out and get loved by another dog. How many of you going, that is smart? Yeah. So you don't have to own a dog if you're saying, well, I'm not allowed to have a dog or blah, 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 going, go look after somebody else's. No, she's not new to being alone. But let me tell you, Peaches, she is new to being aware of being alone. Do any of you understand what I mean by that? That for so many of us, we're so busy filling up our lives so we don't feel anything that we actually don't get to feel what it's like to be alone. And it's a perfectly okay feeling. And so we're so busy cramming our lives full of external people and external things and so many commitments we can't, we can't think straight. And my day is so full. You don't have time to be alone. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I found that I had totally different realities once I got comfortable with being alone. Wow. I have totally different realities. When I started to find out who I really was. And some of you know me that I'm really a little bit of a MacGyver type person, right? For example, my friend yesterday was wearing a tracksuit top with a funny clip that held the string from going up through the hood. You know what I'm trying to say here? And, without thinking, I took one look at it, put my glasses on, had a second look at it and said, hang on a second. And I managed to get it. And without even thinking, I had my needle nose pliers out and a couple of other things. And I took it apart. I cut the frayed end of the string and I put it back together and then took my pliers and crimped it back together again. And she just shook her head and said, will you ever change? Because I have that sort of mind. I like experimenting. I like fixing things. Now, for those of you who've been watching me for a long time, you remember the halogen oven, right? I wanted to try the halogen oven because I'd seen it on TV and I wondered whether it actually worked. And I look at how much pleasure that brought me. And by the way, it's amazing that not only did it bring me great pleasure and entertained me, I certainly didn't feel like I was alone when I was playing with that thing, but also I found that I picked up this huge audience for me, huge audience in the UK because of the halogen oven. So it's like, when did you challenge yourself to learn something? And that's what I say to people. If you've got enough time to feel lonely, feel the feeling and go, what am I going to do about it? That's cognitive thinking, right? What am I going to do about it? Sal and Hal. Yep. By the way, I did something with Sal and Sil. Do you remember, Linda? Sil is my silhouette, a die cutting machine, and I did a little experiment on it this last week. And I can't put the video up yet, but I will be able to probably in about a week. There's a good reason for that. So I've got this mind that's highly entertained when it's creating. when it's doing something totally new. Now, some of you have probably seen the vlog, and at the end of it, I said, I'm about to try some etching. Do you think that when I do that, I'm going to be feeling lonely? Right? Yeah, what I've noticed is since I've been on the Darth Vader machine that helps me breathe at night, two things have happened. It has kickstarted my energy, but also it has kickstarted something in my brain because I'm starting to get really brave about doing things again. And I've had a couple of years where I've been really quite stymied because I'm get scared. Bacon butties. Now, for those of you who don't speak English, a bacon butty is a sandwich. Yeah, it would make great bacon butties. That's awesome. All right, now here's my next question to you all. How many of you travel alone? Right? How many of you actually travel alone? Yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy at the moment deciding. I've got 2 trips to do in April, and they're both to the same area. Hi there, Charlotte. We're talking about being happy, being alone, Charlotte, just so that you know. And I wanted to make sure that you understood that there are 2 things that happen when you travel alone, or maybe more. Can you think about that? What do you think are the downsides of traveling alone? Let's have a little talk about that. What are the negatives of traveling alone that you can see? Security, Charlotte says. Yeah. Safety, right? That comes to everybody's mind first of all. And I realize that part of why I haven't taken the trailer out recently is maybe because of I don't have Bean with me anymore. Well, the only way to find out whether you can do it is actually to challenge yourself, Linda. Um, and I am going to put up a challenge to myself. Are you ready for this one, guys? I have not had my trailer off my front driveway for 2 years. Yes, it's more expensive at a hotel for a single person. So so then financially, right? But I just wanted to ask, it's boring on a plane on your own. Safety is you're not as good. How many of those are stories we tell ourselves? Um, you know what I mean? It's like, do we are these the words we say to ourselves to justify why we're not doing it? And how many of you that are tuned in right now have actually traveled on your own and found it quite fascinating? How many of you can imagine how many of you can imagine that I actually am not alone a great deal when I travel alone? I'm only alone when I choose to be. Because it's me, right? So I can literally be filling up gas and I will meet people. I will, you know, be having a meal and I will meet people. So because that's who I am. I'm interested in people. And I think is that a point? How about this one? Yes, Charlotte. Right. So Charlotte, and that's what I was saying, Charlotte. In the old days, we were part of more clubs and communities. And that's what's happening to our society today is we have to go back to being part of a community of some sort. You have to be an extrovert for that. Yes. But you also need to be a compassionate person for that, right? Because when I go out, it's not about me. I actually interact with people because they look like they are lonely. You know what I mean? Or they're looking sad. And I will actually say to them, I just wanted to give you a smile. And they'll look at me and go, why? And I go, because you look like you needed one. And I just watch them melt. So even it's not about being an extrovert as much as being compassionate to others. I find as well that I like to talk to people when they're having a hard time. Like if I'm in a lineup and the person in front of me is really rude to the checkout person, boy, will I interact. Yeah, Charlotte. And I think, when you're in a running community that you get together and you train together sometimes, but you compete together, very important. It's very difficult, right? I totally agree with you. So what I'm trying to say is if we don't stretch ourselves, if I don't pick up my big girl pants and put them on and hook up my trailer and take it off my driveway, I don't know whether my trailer still works, right? I've got to take that risk. How many of you will help support me in that? And I can be saying, oh, I don't have time for that. I'm busy downsizing. You know, I don't have time. I don't have the money for that. I need it for downsizing and selling the house. Or is that a story I tell myself? Oh, Linda, I want to tell you, I've actually seen people cry. And then I ask if I can give them a hug. Yes, I will so enjoy it. And even you see, here is the thing. Because you know that even if it breaks down on the first corner, it's going to be a vlog. you know. And I'm going to be sitting there going, well, that didn't work very well. And is it a life story? And will I be alone if I don't get help? Yes. You see, I think that everything we do in life is about how we choose to live life. It's not about them at all. It's about us. And it's and how we process what's happening to us. So, how many of you, when I said, do you travel alone? How many of you went, I should really do that? Or when I said, go to the movies on your own or go to the coffee shop on your own? Yes, Charlotte, it is finding common ground. But more than that, it is also, I think, for example, um, how many of you remember Matthew that used to be on the broadcasts a lot? He's an IT type person. Well done, Peaches. Good for you. Yeah, I've got to get my trailer out. But it was really funny because I was busy trying to do something this week, and I just, me, I don't quit easily, but it wasn't a case of quitting. It was about this is a little bit above my pay grade. I need to learn something here, and who do I know that's good at this? And I thought Matthew, and then Charlotte. There's that part of me that goes, "Oh, I haven't talked to him in a long time, and maybe I shouldn't ask." And I'm going, BS. It's not about that. It's about you got a question, ask him. you know. And then I thought of two other people that I knew that might have the answer. So I asked everybody. And I felt so much better for doing something about solving a problem. Does that make sense? Okay, Becca, thank you for being here, honey. And well done. Becca, just before you go, may I ask you a question? I just want everybody to know that Becca did challenge herself to go back to work for a few hours. I'm so proud of you, Becca, that you did that. And just keep doing the best you can. And I wondered what your goal is for this week to get yourself into the world, if you like. Are you going to go back to work for a few hours, or what are you going to do to help yourself heal? And for those of you who don't know, Becca recently lost her brother, and she is in a state of grieving. And we all, for those of us who have been through that, we all know how devastating that is. And she's doing a great job of just being who she is and just taking it. Ah, great idea. Yeah, if you can find some grief counseling, that would be awesome. You see, that's looking after you. Well done, Becca. I'm very proud of you. And I'm really, as I agree with Charlotte, I'm really glad you popped in. And you just need to tell us how we can best support you. If you can tell us, we can help. If you don't tell us how best to support you, it's difficult to know how to help you. So well done. I'm very proud of you for what you did. Very proud. All right. So in terms of being happy, being alone, what have we discovered? What would you say are the main things to remember? And can I also ask you, as you're in the room, what things did the discussion trigger in you where you went, you know something? I need to do something about this. Yeah, Peach is saying it all depends on us. We are the ones that have the feelings. Charlotte, I'm not sure what you said, but there was a word in there that YouTube didn't like. I've got a medium filter on there, so I'm not sure what it is. Actually, maybe I get to check the message. Hang on. Maybe I can learn something here. Whoops. Huh. No, that didn't do it. I wondered whether I thought I'll have to learn that one. Ah, Linda, yes. Isn't that the truth? Sometimes the most valuable gift we can give somebody is a hug. It's not advice. So, yeah, how many of you know that one? I agree, Charlotte, that being vulnerable is hard, but it is the key to personal growth. That's why I couldn't check it. Thanks, Charlotte. Yes, we are responsible for our own happiness. It's not for somebody else to do. How many of you are in relationships and you expect the person you're in relationship with to make you happy? And end up being alone because of that. And even worse, have you ever been in a relationship where they're happy and you're resentful of that? You're going, Yeah, happiness is an inside job. I agree. But loneliness is an inside job as well. So if you want to be happy while you're alone, you need to do some work on yourself. And it's a wonderful opportunity. Yeah, I definitely have this thing that I've learned, Kerry. Whenever I start to have those feelings, because I'm human, I will say, yeah, but what are you going to do about it? Right? That's what I ask myself. Yeah, yeah, you're lonely, but what are you going to do about it? Because it is your choice. Yes, Charlotte, exactly. It is my choice. By the way, my house is in an uproar and it makes me uncomfortable. Yeah, but what am I going to do about it? Right? Because it's not going to magically clean itself up, is it? How many of you were here at last week's broadcast? And maybe I can pick up the information on tonight's broadcast. You all know what we're discussing tonight, by the way. Feelings don't make you weak, they make you a human. Yes, exactly. Don't ignore your feelings. Do not do not ignore your feelings. Acknowledge your feelings and then say, what am I going to do about it? Yeah, I feel unloved. Well, what are you going to do about it? Yes, adults that lie is what we're going to be talking about. Thank you very much, Jody. And I've got quite a bit of input on that one and quite a lot of discussion on it. Now, I've got a question. Did any of you hear about the fact that there were two sightings of an unidentified object in the sky that flew over two different aeroplanes and it wasn't showing up on any radar anywhere? And, it was very interesting if you listen to it, where the ground control heard about the first one. Yeah, heard about the first one from the pilot of the first passenger plane. And they then contacted the next airplane in the lineup and said, watch out for a possible, uh, what did they say? Possible object flying over you, and let us know if you see it. And they said, well, we haven't seen it. And then about a minute later, they said, something just flew over us. And that something was about 3,000 feet away from them, they said. And it wasn't showing up on anybody's radar. So cue in the Twilight Zone music. So was this a UFO or some stealth machine? I don't know. But I thought I'd mention that. Okay, Charlotte, good to see you. Have fun running. No, they have not been able to find out what it was. Now, the other thing I found interesting is how many of you watched or heard about the fact that Roseanne started a new program this week? And the interesting thing is the premise of the program is that she is a Trump supporter. Now, I know I've got an evil mind, but you know what my first thought was? And by the way, it had an awful lot of viewers. My first thought was, did the Trumps fund that program? Because the timing of it is amazing. It's coming in just before the midterms. And if you wanted to get subliminal messages out to an awful lot of people in that, uh, that voter base, wouldn't a comedy be a great way to do it? And did any of you watch the movie Wag the Dog? Because, ever since I saw that movie, everything that happens like that, my mind goes, yeah, but was it arranged? Did they do this intentionally? So anyway, I just gave that a little bit of thought. Now, I thought you'd like to know, for those of you who are into history, which I know Kerry is, yeah, Wag the Dog was a great movie. I think everybody should see that movie at least once. I try and go back and rewatch it every decade because it's like, don't forget that this happens. I thought you'd like to know, any idea, do any of you know what the 15th Amendment was regarding the right to vote regardless of your race? I wondered if any of you know when that was brought in. When did they bring in the 15th Amendment, which gave everybody the right to vote, regardless of your race? The 1900s, pretty close. It was 1870, Kerry. So you were in the right ballpark. And no, it was way before Peaches. That's interesting, right? It actually happened in 1870. That's why I like to mention these things. Now, here's another one that I thought was interesting. The pencil with the eraser on the end of it. That's okay, but that's why we play these games, Peaches, because it's entertaining. Right? The eraser at the end of a pencil. When do you think that was first patented? I thought that was interesting. It was like, who was it that put the eraser on the end of a pencil and went, okay, now we don't have to have a separate eraser? And his name was Lippmann. Hyman L. Lippmann was his name. Anybody want to hazard a guess? 1920s? In the 50s? It was 1858. Isn't that amazing? I went wow as well, Jody. That's why I wrote it down. It was like that was amazing to me. Because if you think about it, in the 1800s, yeah, I don't know why. To me, the 1800s is almost like the Stone Age. You know what I mean? It's just like, really, they thought of that then. And you could imagine Mr. Lippmann coming out and saying, "Hey, honey, I've got this great idea. I'm going to stick my eraser on the end of my pencil and wrap it around so it stays there." And you could imagine the wife going, "Yeah." And how many of you would love to have had that patent? I always think about the safety pin, the bobby pin. I think it's amazing how many of these things were invented by husbands who were getting fed up with their wives muttering. You know what I mean? The bobby pin. I can remember the story about that guy, and literally his wife was always complaining that the pins fell out of her hair. Yeah, the Post-it note was, the Post-it note is a classic story. And also the Teflon pan. Did you hear about that one? Because I think the Post-it note and the Teflon pan happened about the same time, and they were both accidents. Yeah, they were both accidents. I'm trying to remember, the Post-it note, it was a glue solution that didn't work. Literally, and I've got one in front of me. It was they invented this new glue, and it just didn't work. And then somebody went, yeah, but I'd like some of that, and they started to do that. Was WD-40 an accident as well? Really, I didn't know that. All right, how many uses do we know for the WD-40? I obviously use WD-40 in my painting sometimes. I think some of you know that. But I also use it to take off indelible pen. Did you know that it does that? I actually write on my mason jars and then on the lids, and then I just spritz it with WD-40 and wipe it off again so I can write a new one. Anybody know that? It was originally for waterproofing out. So it's, you know me. All right. So it's got silicone in it, and that's why it works so well. But here is the thing. Have you noticed that the price of a silicone blaster, be it WD-40 or whatever, any of those silicone blasters, is very different from the price of a bottle of, it gets rid of glue as well. By the way, when you're trying to lift a label off something and it leaves that gluey thing, the WD-40 works really well for that as well. And yet, if you buy a little bottle of it, you will pay a fortune. You buy a bottle of WD-40, a can, and you pay very little. I found, for example, as an artist, that acrylic paint, you can buy a little bottle of special stuff that will get rid of acrylic paint being stuck on, your carpet or your clothes or whatever. I use rubbing alcohol, which I think is what's in there, and it works really well. I just take a toothbrush and spritz some rubbing alcohol on and rub it, and then pat it clean, and then put some more on and keep doing that until it's all gone. It works so well. Margarine. Was margarine a mistake? I didn't know that. Yeah, how did they come up with margarine? That's a very good question. I'll have to look into that. You can tell that interests me. All right, so when we do tonight's broadcast, by the way, how many of you prefer the broadcasts here on YouTube as opposed to the other platforms? I'll have a look at that, Jody, and then maybe we should have a little segment, Mistake of the Week, Why, Peaches? Why do you prefer it here on YouTube to the other platforms? Just so that I know. Huh. Interesting. Because of Flash Player. Okay. The quality is good here? Yeah, I think that YouTube definitely wants this market. You know what I mean? Because they're doing everything they can to make it much easier. Good. All right. So I thought I'd just let you know we've got a couple of birthdays coming up this week for those of you who are viewers long term. Do any of you remember Laurie's life journey from way back. It's her birthday on Monday, I think that's the 2nd. Jodie's birthday, our Jodie here, is on the 3rd. And then we've got 2 that are coming up. We've got Paul Buckley's birthday on the 12th. And do any of you remember Adam from Ohio? The ballet dancer in the Nutcracker? I don't know why. I always remember him for that. His is on the 14th. So we've got a couple of birthdays. No, it's okay, Peaches. You're allowed to be too new. But both Kerry and, Becca's not here now, but they would have remembered them because they're from way back. And I've got that. By the way, for those of you who are fairly new, yes, Linda, I have heard that he's been down. And it's interesting because when I say interesting, that's the wrong word to use. He knows where we are, and he knows that we will be here for him. And I know that some of the viewers are in touch with him fairly regularly. Are you in touch with him a lot, Linda? Or do you just notice, do you follow the feed? Yes, and that's where I had heard from somebody else. And yeah, and what he feels is his reality, right? So if he feels like that, it is because things are not going right. So I wanted to ask you, have any of you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like you're a loser? Yes, and have you noticed, though, that he always misses Ashley when he's alone? When there isn't another person in his life, then he misses Ashley. Yeah. So that to me is a warning sign. So I want to talk not about Paul. I wanted to talk about our relationship in that. How many of you have ever felt like a loser? And maybe if we can understand what creates that, then we can help. So when you felt like a loser, yeah. And again, it's a very personal thing. You can only feel like a loser if you're comparing yourself to others. All right, let me give you my example for that. What if I compared myself, let's say, with Benji and Judy and what they've done on the internet? Do you think I'd feel like a loser? You see, what I think happens to us is the only time we can feel like a loser is when we're comparing ourselves with something. So, Jody, when you felt like a loser, what were you comparing yourself to? An able-bodied person who hadn't had the trouble you've had? And Kerry, when you felt like a loser, what were you comparing yourself? Yeah. So here's what and I don't know if any of you want this, but I can tell you what I do when I start to feel like a loser, because it does happen. It's quite normal. I don't think it's unusual. And let's hear what everybody else does. Because, like all things, I believe what we say to ourselves when we're having these emotions is really important. And by the way, Kerry, 2 extra boxes there. It's getting higher. I'm going to move them downstairs soon. Kerry is my downsizing controller. So when I did this thing probably 6 months ago where I went, oh, I'm such a loser, I haven't done well enough in whatever, YouTube and then I went, what are you saying? What are you comparing your success to? Yes, when you compare yourself, right? And so I'm going, what are you comparing your success to? And I realized that I was comparing my success to money, because I hadn't made very much money. If I make $30 a month out of YouTube, it's a lot. And I assure you, I just paid, $175 just to have no, I lie. I only did 6 months, $100 to have 6 months of the PO box. So you understand it costs money. I just paid another amount of money for the tiny chat thing, which I'm going to be canceling. So if I look at the money side, I can say I'm comparing it that I'm a failure. It costs me more than it's a very expensive hobby. Oh, go steam mop. It's such a great idea. I'm glad you were here, Linda. Thank you. All right. So what I then did was I had a very strong talk to myself and I said, did you go to YouTube to try and make money or did you go to YouTube to help people? Do you understand? I had to compare apples and apples. And remember that all these other people went to make money and that's how they structured everything. You didn't do that. And so then I went to go and help people. And I went, well, how well have you done with that? And I could think of a lot of, and then I went, that makes me happy. Now that's very selfish, isn't it? It makes me happy. So what I'm looking at now is what you compare yourself to. The only time you feel like a loser is if you live in the past or the future. Or no, not even the future, right? You can do you understand? So if you feel like if I feel like a loser because I'm not happy, you're not saying, well, what am I going to do about it? Starting right now, because that's a fact. I find it very interesting that what we feel is our responsibility. Have you got that one yet, guys? Oh, it's a pleasure, Kerry. All right. What you feel is your responsibility. Somebody didn't do it to you. If you can get that solidly in your head, you'll be amazed how different your life is. All right. What I feel is my responsibility. If I feel resentful, they didn't do it to me. I did it to me. If I feel angry, they didn't do it to me. It's how I processed what they said that made me angry. Right? If I feel lonely, I did it to myself. I haven't invited anybody over to play, Scrabble, or I haven't, I have done nothing to entertain myself in some way. Or how about if I feel lonely, why don't I go to the local hospital and go and visit sick people? Right? Well, because I'm too miserable to do that. Well, hello, you're going to stay miserable. But I find, why don't you go to the SPCA or whatever it is in your country, and go play with dogs? Hi, Maggie. And that's why they call it the present. All right. The past has gone, the future hasn't happened, and who knows whether we'll be alive for it. So therefore, we need to live in the present. And so, yeah. So let's go back to the fear. Good to see you, Maggie. It's you right. I was talking about hooking up the trailer and all the fears. Can you imagine how many fears I've got? Yeah, what if I get halfway down the road and the tire blows? What if the Jeep isn't strong enough to pull it anymore? The what if monster got all over me? Do any of you relate to the what if monster? Did any of you see my video about the little rug underneath my aquarium? I cannot tell you how fearful I was to move that rug. It had been there for 5 years. The aquarium sat on top of it. I knew that the aquarium had overflowed at one point. I was terrified that underneath it, the floorboards would be ruined, or that even worse, maybe the creepy crawlies had taken up residence. I cannot tell you how scary that little bit of carpeting was. Do any of you relate to that? And I'm going, I don't want to move it. I am scared to move the carpet. And then it was funny because I just went, yeah, get your big girl pants on now. And I walked over there, and with the end of my duster, I got a long handled duster, I flipped it. Yeah. So if the eight-legged things came rushing out, I could move in a hurry. Yeah, it could have been a rotten hole in the floor. That's what I'm scared of. And to mend the flooring in that part would have been very difficult. And the funny thing was, the only thing, when I flipped it, the only thing that was there was dirt from the bottom of the carpet that had disintegrated. Do you know what I mean? That rubber material that's on the back of some of these carpeting things, that had deteriorated, and that was the only thing that was underneath it. Dirt. Poke at it, right? So I wanted to talk about what is it that is challenging you this week? We've got less than half an hour left. So give me some ideas of what things are challenging you this week. Because I got a feeling you're probably procrastinating as well. And let me tell you what mine is. Kerry, listen to this. Listen up here. I've got a whole bunch of bigger paintings and stuff that I need to put away somewhere, and I haven't been able to work out where to put them. And I thought, hey, I need to put them downstairs. I've got a storage room now and a garage that I can start organizing, and I can take all those things and put them there. So, Kerry, all right. So, time management. What does that mean to you? You're spending too much time doing the wrong things. Tell me what that means. I want to get the right picture. And does anybody else have a time management problem? Oh, we can give you a team, Peaches, if you would like. Kerry's very good at that. No, you don't have to remind me. Just know, I just wanted you to know that that's on my list this week. Two things. I'm going to video both things, all right, so that you guys can see why it's a problem. And should I just talk about why they're a problem? Why I haven't done it already? Yeah. So exactly. So what is it you want to do, Peaches? Because we're going to be here next week, and we can hold you accountable. Let me get my pen ready. Yeah, Peaches. And by the way, half the world's going to know about it. No, don't try and distract me from the first one. What is it you're putting off for later? And if it's not something that you can discuss publicly, okay, so to have a better routine. Right, Peaches, do you work? Okay. So you know about scheduling really well, right? If you work. So here's what I've found works for me, Peaches. Um, Try slotting in a time in the day. Yeah, Kerry, do the same thing here. All right. Get your Google Calendar out and slot in that make an appointment, right, with yourself that at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever time you finished having dinner when you get home, you will do 15 minutes of chores. And I don't mean the regular chores that you do without thinking. It's those chores you keep putting off. Now, as I said, I've got this group of stuff that I need to move, and I've got a problem in part of my living room that I need to deal with. Right? Hi, Beth. Good to see you. So here's the thing. Carrie, that's the second week we've heard about you in the laundry. So that means you don't have it scheduled into your week. And it's not happening automatically. Does that make sense? So have something in your day timer, and it's all electronic now. Have something in your day timer that it's an appointment, right? On Mondays or Saturdays or Wednesdays, I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing procrastination stuff. I actually know that between the two broadcasts every week, I go shopping. Make sense? Mondays is a very productive day for me normally. And that is the day I do the wash, Mondays and Tuesdays. Tuesdays is what I call Bull Day because I really enjoy watching Bull. But it's a day that I normally give myself permission to go into the studio and paint. But I also do wash on that day because in the painting, every hour or so, I need a break and I need to clean up a bit. And then I will clean up, go down, move the wash over, and then, do you understand? I've got it sort of, if it's Tuesday, then it's wash day. Kerry, you need a couple of days a week where you're accountable. So give me the days. Give me the days. And Peaches, what is it you want to get done this week that you've been putting off? Because we're going to be your new managers. We can help you if you want the help. Maggie, hi, good to see you. Maggie, Jody will tell you the same thing. Yeah, that is really so true. For those of you who are not well, what is challenging is to be humble enough to know, okay, hang on a second. I want to get back to that, Peaches. Just hold on one second. Thursdays and Saturdays for Carrie, right? Okay, I'll be checking with you on Sunday to find out if you did. All right, stop there, Peaches. Don't overload yourself. Right? Hold on one second. Peaches, you're not stupid because you're part of DearMamaSal. So here's my question. What is it about installing the light fixture that scares you? Right? Now that's what I start to do. The reason I've put off doing this one thing in part of my living room is because I'm scared I won't be able to get rid of the marks. And I'll show you that in a video. But you see, I think that quite often. So what scares you? Now we know what it is. See, what I find works really well, Peaches, is that you put that at the beginning of each day, not if I get to it, I'll do it. That you start the day with getting that solar light on the roof. Now, even if you just unwrap it and take it to the front door on day one, do you know what I mean? Start doing, I will start each day. Right. And so let's get it done. Or, Peaches, throw the damn thing away. Excuse my language. You know what I mean? So either do something about it or get rid of it. Oh, I don't want to get rid of it. I spent good money on it. Well, if you spent good money on it, it's not doing anything. I'm trying to help you. Really. And I'm an expert at this, Peaches. This is my territory. Procrastination, I win prizes in it. Hi, Em. I really do. I win prizes in it. But you know what is funny? For those people who know me well, I don't quit, right? It stays on my to-do list. I don't quit. You see, you haven't quit on this. I know you want to get that light up. Why? You still got it, right? Because if you really didn't need it that much, you would have thrown it away. Get rid of the evidence, right? So, but at the moment, it's a guilt trip. Am I right? It's a guilt trip. Every time you see it, or every time you go out in the backyard and it's not light, you're going, it's a guilt trip. Do any of you relate to what I'm trying to say here? Kerry, what I hear from you is you'd like to get more organized into a routine. And that is around your cleanliness. All right? And I think that's a wonderful thing. The same as I was quite surprised yesterday when I actually sat down and went, okay, what can I get rid of? And I managed to fill 2 boxes and put them away. And I realized in that, Kerry, that I could do things differently. Well, thank you, Em. That's what I wanted to ask. Do you guys like it better when we actually have a topic that we discuss and then let it flow after that? How do you feel about that? This is a new concept. It's what I originally started doing. But do you find it helpful? And in talking about something that maybe isn't your issue, would it stop you from coming to the broadcast? Those are, I think, the 2 questions I'd like to ask. And that's why I won't spend the whole time talking about any one thing, but I will use it as the sort of segue into it. Yep. Good. So, to me, we will always be talking about procrastination. We will always be talking about getting things done that we want to do. Kerry, I find it really interesting that you have changed your focus, right? And, here you are, you're about to start a new job. That means you're going to be busier again. That means you need the routine. And that includes me, Jody. Right? Because that's what I keep saying. I keep looking at the stuff around me and I'm going, yeah, that's a mess. What are you going to do about it? See, that's my new thing. Yeah, but what are you going to do about it? How many of you need that one? Would you like to hear one of my best procrastinations? I'm not joking. I have meant to actually establish a Dear Mama Sal mailing list. Where I actually send out an email to you guys. I've had that on my to-do list for Dear Mama Sal for 5 years. Do any of you believe me? And the interesting thing is that it obviously wasn't that important. Otherwise, I wouldn't still be talking about it. But here's something that happened. I found out that the European law about emailing people comes into effect in May. And that means that before May, I need to make sure that everybody I have on the Dear Mama Sal contact list has given me, yeah, I'm a good procrastinator. I told you I win prizes in that, Peaches. Has given me permission to send them stuff. Right? Now, I might never do it, but I need to make sure everybody has given me permission because especially those in Europe, people like Linda, right? And those in Ireland and Denmark and, all those people. So I need to make sure that I contact them. And I'm thinking that it needs to be on my order form as well on the shop, right? In giving me this information so that I can send you stuff, do I also have your permission to have you on the mailing list? Am I making sense? But I've got to be able to prove that you guys have told me, yes, it's okay. And that comes in May. No, don't do that to me, Pat. Hang on, you're going to do it to me. Wait, that means I got to do something, and I don't do that. Don't beat up on yourself, so I'll just do it. Hold on, everybody. What are you going to do about it, Sol? You're going to add it onto your things to do. Oh, it didn't like that. Why not? What did I do? It wouldn't let me copy it, Peaches. Could you write to me at DearMamaSal? Oh, wait. I don't think it likes. Yeah, I've got that. No, and what I'm saying, Peaches, is I'm going to be writing to the people I've already got to get their permission. But I appreciate that. Let me see if it lets me do it this time. You guys just like challenging me. I know that. Yes, it allowed me to do it the second time. Good. All right. So, but the point that I'm trying to make, do you understand that? Is I've had that on my to-do list for 5 years. What made me suddenly say, I think I'll do it now? When I've got lots of other things that are way more important than that. What made me do it? I could be breaking an international law if I don't. Do you think that got my attention? Well, isn't that? Oh, so well, I appreciate it. I got it the second time. So, do you understand that it's really important that you will do things when the time is right? How many of you know that one? Until then, it's just a wish. It's not a goal. Well, Maggie, I once gave a full day lecture on the power of positive procrastination. I really did. And I was amazed how many people came to it. Because I think sometimes you're just not ready yet. The time isn't right yet, and it's okay. Now, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been a good idea. I'm just saying that for whatever reason, I wasn't motivated enough to do it. Now I am. So, Kerry, we are saying Thursdays and Saturdays, you're going to be reporting in that you did the laundry. I'm not going to be bugging you. I'm just asking you if you're going to make that commitment to yourself. Yeah, it's a wish until you do it. Then it's a goal. You know what I mean? It's like when you plan it. For example, Peaches, if getting that solar light up is the first thing you spend the first 15 minutes on every day, I will believe that it's a goal. Does that make any sense? If you spend, like, for example, I have been spending at least an hour a day trying to work out how I'm going to do this mailing list. And now I've got 2 of them going that I'm going to, yeah. So we will believe you. We will believe you when you come back into the broadcast and say, I spent 15 minutes every day on this. And by the way, I got light in the backyard now. Oh, Thursday you'll clean your room? Okay, hang on a second. Okay, and Saturday's laundry day. Okay. All right, I'll keep a note of that. Yes. By the way, how many of you... Beth, how many of you would be willing to fill in for example, a Google sheet where we put everybody's procrastination so I can check on it every week and see how we're doing? Would that make you want to do it a bit more quickly? But with love, and see how much we can get accomplished. And we challenge each other, you like that, Beth? Okay, I will get it set up. And and then we'll have a segment every broadcast for the procrastinators. And Peaches, what do you have to do is this a solar light that you don't even have to plug in? Did I get this right? You just got to get it out of the box and stick it in the backyard or on the side of a building. So there's no fear of electrocution. Hey, Peaches, I don't know how to tell you this. You know how stupid that sounds. Oh, on the roof. So you need a ladder. Do you have a ladder? Oh, Beth, right. It's you, Beth. All right, daughter ride to work. Okay. All right, so Beth, we know you're not stupid. What's the fear? That she will hate you? We got 3 minutes. Type quickly. By the way, can I talk about these in a vlog? I probably won't put names to it, but just the sort of things that people are procrastinating about, because I'd like to start up a support group for procrastinators. And this is called, let's see how much we can get done this year. I've got to get the trailer out, right? Why am I so scared? Beth, yeah, you're scared that she won't love you anymore. Okay, so Beth, I have a quick story for you. Are you ready? Yeah, you see, it's another thing. Oh, I might upset her too much and she's pregnant, so I can't do it now. You need to do it, Beth. You know that. She'll find a way. By the way, Beth, I had to do some very tough love with my best friend of many, many years. And about 2 years ago or more, I picked her off rock bottom one more time and put her back on her feet. And then she abused my kindness. And what I did is I severed the friendship. And everybody said to me, "How can you do that? She's your best friend." I said, "It's the only way I know to help her." And Beth, you understand that losing somebody that I'd been best friends with for a long time was very sad for me. But I knew that I was enabling her if I didn't do it. And I'm going to do a program about that. And by the way, Beth, she didn't talk to me for a long time. But we had lunch yesterday, Beth, and with the tears rolling out of her eyes, she said, "I owe you an apology. I owe you an apology because I abused our friendship. And you didn't deserve that. And I can never take it back, but I want to tell you how sorry I am. And I also want to thank you for what you did because it was such a shock to me that you would do that it woke me up." So sometimes putting the boundary down, Beth, works to the other person's advantage. Do you understand? Probably not in the short term. And you just need to say, "I hate to do this to you. I know you're pregnant and it's going to be uncomfortable. But do you understand?" Thank you, Peaches. Do you understand how important this is? That you put down a boundary to protect yourself. And I said to her, I knew it was time to do something because I was getting resentful. I was coming home having worked all day and beginning to dread coming home because you were going to be sitting on your ass doing diddly while I worked all day. And then you hadn't even bothered to cook me a meal or do anything. So I just said to her, "You've got 6 weeks to get out." And she said, "Oh, I might not be able to do it in time." And I said, it's not a maybe. By April the 15th, Beth, we got you covered. I'm going to put you on the list. But do you know something, Beth? Don't do it for us. And if you need longer than that, we understand that as well. You understand? Then we understand that as well. So people, I really want to thank you. I just want to make sure that you all understand that the things I talk about are because I care. I talk about these things not because I'm a doctor or a therapist or anything else. You know I'm not. But I do know that we all have these problems. All right? We all have these problems. And I have found out that when I talk about them, when we all talk about them, we all get enthused a different way. And so to me, I want to thank you all for your honesty. I want to thank you for your generous donations. I appreciate that. That super chat really works beautifully, doesn't it? You can't miss it. And guess what? I am now that much closer to paying off the bills. Thank you. I really, really, really want to thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy YouTube as a broadcast medium because it actually works much better for me. It's a much easier program for me to broadcast to you, and plus the views count for me as well. Well, you know something, Jody? I think that's what's wrong in life. I don't think we'd have these problems if somebody had been able to put these to us in a nice way or supported us. Beth, I know how scared you must be to have that discussion with your daughter. I know how scared you must be. It's the same scared as I am to actually hook up that trailer and find out whether it's going to fall apart. Okay? So we're going to do this together, Beth, and Peaches, and Carrie, and Jody, and everybody else that wants to get anything done. And this year, we're going to help one another get things done nicely while we work on ourselves. So something hit home for you. And I think it's about the fact that not many people, you don't feel many people support you, Beth. Is that right? So I'm going to send you a hug and say, we can do this together. Because we all know emotion, we all know procrastination, we all know the things that we haven't done that we want to get done, and we all know that we spend far more time helping others before we help ourselves. And you wouldn't delay in helping somebody else, so let's do it. All right? My goal this year is to help us all help one another. I've been on for more time than I said. I love you dearly. I'm off shopping because that's the next thing. We all need somebody most days, Maggie. Not sometimes, most days. Big hug, everybody. Remember to look after one another. But as I always say, please, please, please start every day by looking after yourself. Make sense? Thank you for your generous donations. I really appreciated that for those that did. So if you've ever lied, bring your stories. This is Dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now.